Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. As you know, many reports over the past decade, including the National Academy's report Rising Above the Gathering Storm, found that it is critical to our nation's economic leadership and global competitiveness that we educate and train more scientists and engineers. Research also shows that women and underrepresented minorities, who by 2050 will comprise more than 50% of our population, are disproportionately lost at every transition point in their STEM studies and research careers. As a nation, we cannot afford to continue hemorrhaging with so much talent. My amendment would add my STEM Opportunities Act to the legislation we are discussing today. The STEM Opportunities Act combines two bills I've introduced before, one that helps break down barriers for women in academic STEM careers, and one that focuses on recruiting and retaining more underrepresented minorities in STEM degrees and onto faculty careers. This amendment attempts to systematically address the full suite of issues facing both female and minority STEM students and researchers, from work-life balance policies to campus climate, to better data collection, to recruitment and retention practices. The provisions in my amendment are based on research and on well-documented best practices. This amendment is simply to make sure that all of our research agencies and the institutions funded by these agencies are aware of and are implementing those best practices. In addition, the research components of the amendment would help to increase our understanding of the paths followed by women and minorities in STEM research careers so that policymakers can design more effective policies and practices to reduce barriers. I hope that research will even help the policymakers that come after us to continue to strengthen my legislation. But we have enough good information now to implement what's in my amendment and start getting it into practice. I have been emphasizing the need for investment in STEM education, encouraging our young people to pursue STEM studies, and working on getting more diversity in STEM fields for more than 20 years now. That should tell you how important I think these issues are and how much work I still think needs to be done. This should not be a controversial amendment. It is only common sense to recognize that our competitive edge will be lost if we do not vastly improve STEM education in this country for all of our students. We need to make use of all of our nation's brain power if we are to maintain our leadership in science and innovation. I want to thank the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Vesey, who is a co-sponsor of this amendment, for his support on this effort, and I know he will be a strong voice for these issues in the committee. I urge support of my amendment, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Okay.
Let me thank Mr. Bera for his amendment. Striking Section 117 is an important improvement in this legislation. Section 117 makes it harder for NSF and peer reviewers to select and fund the best science and seems to prohibit incremental research and replication, both essential elements of scientific progress. Section 117 is also part of the majority's overall message that they don't trust scientists or the gold standard merit review process of NSF. I'm afraid of the chilling effect that is antagonistic tone could have on our young scientists and our students who are considering a career in research. On this committee, we are told that time and time again by expert witnesses of the difficulties in recruiting and retaining young people in the STEM fields. I sincerely believe this section will make that job even more difficult. By cutting funding for research, the majority has already created a big enough detriment and deterrent for students considering STEM degrees. By making it even harder for early career researchers, I was concerned about that when we had a whole high school class out here today. listening to things that would stimulate the thought of research, and knowing that here we are this afternoon making sure they will not have that opportunity. So I'm afraid we're driving away young people from the STEM fields for good. Mr. Bera's amendment is an important amendment to correct a highly flawed provision in the underlying bill, and I strongly support it and urge its adoption. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you very much. Strike the last word. Mr. Chairman, I'm pleased to support this amendment authorizing the U.S. Israel Science and Technology Foundation. The Committee on Science, Space, and Technology has long recognized and valued the role that international cooperation plays in solving some of the most complex challenges facing our nations throughout the world. The foundation helps facilitate R&D relationships between U.S. and Israel research, industry, and policy communities. I believe this helps our innovation enterprises and contributes to our economic growth, and I urge my colleagues to support this amendment.
Thank you, Ms.
Johnson.
Johnson.
I yield back.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Much, Mr. Chairman, I would like to thank Mr. Swatwell for his amendment, which would reauthorize and strengthen the National Nanotechnology Initiative. One of the things that the witnesses continue to point out is the uncertainty and how and even members of the committee as well. This amendment would make important changes and updates to the program's management and coordination and make sure that we're getting everything we can out of every dollar invested. The National Nanotechnology Initiative is one of the reasons that the United States is a leader in nanotechnology research and development. We heard this from our witnesses. We also heard how we should not keep the funding cold or hot or up and down, stop and starting. And so that's the reason why I think this amendment would help to ensure that the U.S. does not lose its leadership position in nanotechnology and nanomanufacturing. I support this amendment, and I too think that we should plan our hearings a little bit better so that we can react to the information we received when we are ready to write legislation. Thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you.
I would support withdrawal of this with your commitment that you will help us, because there are manufacturing bills that are introduced. And these programs do help provide a foundation for manufacturers to flourish and produce high-quality, high-paying manufacturing jobs that are key to the growth of our economy. And this is the second year of funding, and it is time to authorize a program this important. So if you will commit that you will help us, I will move to withdraw this amendment.
The gentlewoman will yield. I will commit to working with you. I will commit to being transparent, and I will commit to making a good faith effort to come up with a bipartisan vehicle. But beyond that, we'll have to look at the details. And the gentlewoman.
Now, if you just didn't add that last part, it would be.
Well, none of us know it. None of us can commit to
okay.
things that we don't know about.
Well, and I'm not asking you to commit to anything we don't work on and have some reasonable understanding. But in view of your attitude, I'd like to withdraw the amendment.
Okay. Well, let me just check to make sure Mr. Swatwell is okay with that.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to our ranking member. I would be happy to withdraw and work with both the Chair and the ranking member and convey that to Ms. Wilson.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Thank you, Mr. Swatwell. Without objection, the amendment is withdrawn.